Good evening and welcome to the Thursday, March 26, 2026 school committee meeting. We have just returned from executive session. At this time, I'd like to open the meeting with a roll call of the school committee. Michelle Kirkby here.
Diana Frischella here.
Leo Brum here.
Will Horn here.
Sophia Viglas here.
In response to the request for a comment from the school committee, I've spoken with our legal counsel and was advised that the situation should stay between the committee member and the resident. The school committee policy also specifically states that comments made during public comment portion of the meeting do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Medfield School Committee. Before we begin public input, I also want to remind everyone of a few guidelines that are published in our policy manual. The total time will be limited to 15 minutes, and each speaker is asked to keep comments to 3 minutes or less. Per feedback from our legal counsel, I'll be keeping time and we'll give a 30-second warning. All speakers are encouraged to present their remarks in a respectful manner. Committee members will not respond during public comment, and speakers should direct all remarks through the chair. If you have questions about these guidelines, you can refer to our policy manual on the school committee webpage, specifically policies BEDH and BEDH-E. Finally, public comment is just one avenue to share feedback. If you have more to say or need additional time, you're always welcome to email the school committee at scchair@email.medfield.net. At this time, I'd like to open public input. Members of the public are welcome to comment during the public input either here or through Zoom. If you're on Zoom, please raise your Zoom hand. We ask that you keep your camera on when making a Zoom comment and that you follow school committee policy for public input, including speaking no more than 3 minutes and only on topics under the purview of the school committee. And whether here in person or on Zoom, please state your name and address for the record. Sure.
Because I find it really inappropriate that the school committee or any committee in the town of Medfield would limit public input. So, almost a year ago, my name is Dick Judge. I live on 8 Juniper. I live in Medfield, a proud citizen of this town. Almost a month ago, I stood here at this podium and simply asked the school committee to reconsider a decision to get rid of the beloved third grade history tours. Tours that have been part of our curriculum for decades. Curriculum that is part of your oversight. During my time in public comment, Vice Chair Diana Frischella, I won't point, I'll just go like this, made an outrageous and deeply harmful accusation about me in a public recorded session. I don't want to repeat her vile, baseless words, but feel since there has been no public apology from her or the school committee as a whole, I must remind everyone that she accused me of being in possession of creepy photos of children. She went on then to publicly ask, I do wonder what you do with those underage photos. This is awful stuff. These allegations then publicly are not only untrue, but profoundly damaging to my reputation, my integrity, and over 20 years of service to this community. Deeply hurtful. She has attempted to publicly defame me from her position of power as an elected person in this town. She has made accusations not only in public, but on live recording in front of a student liaison to the school committee and in front of our state reps and senator. Let me be absolutely clear. That statement was a lie. For more than 2 decades, I've volunteered time, energy, etc. I'm going to skip ahead of some of these things because you put me under a 3-minute warning. How many minutes do I have left?
You have 55 seconds.
Then, after an attempt to cool down upon your return, you decided to flip the bird. Unfortunately, it was caught on live TV. What is equally disturbing is what happened since. Nothing. This is super disturbing. There has been no public apology. There has been no emergency meeting of this board to chastise your colleague.
30 seconds.
No retraction, no acknowledgement of harm done. I'm going to add a couple things to this. You should be ashamed. I would be if I was sitting next to that and heard that. I would distance myself from that so quickly and immediately. This body is entrusted with leadership, integrity, and accountability. Now, I don't even want to tell you what you guys are supposed to be doing.
Time's up. Thank you.
Thank you for cutting me off.
Catherine Thorpe, 115 South Street. I'm going to finish what Dick was so really interrupted with. This body is entrusted with leadership, integrity, and accountability. Those values are not optional, and they are not situational. They must be held, especially when it is uncomfortable to do so. So we are demanding 3 things. First, a clear and very public and unequivocal apology from Diane Frisella, who made these false accusations, is the first step, but quite frankly, real accountability should not take weeks. If these were genuine remorse, it would have been immediate. Second, a formal denunciation from the school committee of both the defamatory statement and the unprofessional conduct that accompanied it, including the disrespectful gesture captured on camera. And third, serious consideration of whether someone who behaves in this manner can continue to serve in a position of public trust. Accountability must mean something. If it does not, then this body risks losing the respect of the very community in which we have voted you in to serve. This is not just about Dick. This is about standards, integrity, and the kind of example you set for the students and families in this very district. So I'm asking you not allow that Dick's name be smeared without response, and he is not, and I am not, and everyone here is not accepting silence in place of accountability. So I am here tonight with my statement that something that never should have happened in this community and something that should have been addressed immediately was not. No emergency meeting was held, no statements condemning this behavior, nothing. Diana, your accusations and slander that was completely without evidence has planted seeds of mistrust in this town about a member of our community. And instead of trying to do the right thing, you have remained silent. But what is just as disturbing as the original accusation is your collective silence from all of you. No public apology, no clear retraction, no accountability, no leadership. An elected body that is entrusted with the well-being of children and families should understand better than anyone the weight of words like these and the responsibility that comes along with them. Instead, what this community sees is a failure to act, a failure for any of you to truly lead and to uphold the standards of integrity we expect from you. Silence in the face of wrongdoing is not neutrality. It is complicity, and every single one of you should be held accountable. Leo, your hot mic comment, I will send right back to you. You, collectively, as an entire school committee, have successfully embarrassed yourselves
30
together
seconds.
by not denouncing the behavior of one of your members. What message does this send our community? What message does it send our students? This is unacceptable. This isn't about politics. This isn't about personal disagreements. It's about truth and responsibility. This community deserves better, and it is long past time for this school committee to show it understands that. I hope that everyone at home watching and listening takes note, votes accordingly on Monday. The only way that anyone will rebuild trust in this community is to change leadership, vote out the incumbents who rather sit comfortable in their
Time's up.
silence instead of standing up doing what is right. Thank you.
Hi, Julie Katurba. I live at 5 Juniper Lane. Lived here for more than 23 years of my life. I had 3 students or kids who have been through the system here, and Dick has been a neighbor of mine for over 20 years. If there's anything that I've ever needed in my entire life, I know that I can pick up the phone day or night, and he will be there. And he's like that with the community as well, too. I'd like to say that I believe that the lack of response in and of itself from all of you is in fact a clear response. It reflects the concerning absence of leadership and accountability from elected officials who witness inappropriate behavior and defamation of an active citizen without taking meaningful action. Dismissing the situation by saying that he embarrassed himself shifts responsibility away from where it belongs. The individuals who should be held accountable are those who either engaged in the behavior or chose to remain silent rather than clearly condemning it. Yes, all of you. Elected officials have a responsibility to uphold standards of conduct and to speak out when those standards are not met. Silence in these situations does not demonstrate neutrality. It signals acceptance. And I know where I will be voting come elections. Thank you.
Jerry Potts, 7 Curve Street. It's sad to be here because we have so many pressing issues that our schools are facing. We're going to come in front and ask for a significant amount of money for a school that we desperately need. We're going to ask for an override to support our schools, and I think we all feel strongly that the schools are the center of our town. We also sent 3 kids through the schools. And I always believe that elected officials, whether volunteers or not, are responsible for holding a behavior that they want others to emulate, especially when you're on a school committee. We're in a building that's supposed to teach respect, open dialogue, disagreement in a civil way. I have had many disagreements over the years with the schools, and I've supported. I voted for all the overrides. This is sad because it shows a lack of fundamental respect. This isn't an issue of, it's shocking what was said, but Mike Marcucci at a town meeting a couple of years ago said something that was actually very embarrassing. And within a short period of time, he publicly and very visibly apologized. And I think we all make mistakes at times. So in the heat of the moment, something said, would I ever support it? No. I know Dick. Dick is one of the most, kind volunteers you could ever have, and has given hours, hundreds of hours to this town. But it's sad that we're here tonight to the fundamental thing that you would tell a 3rd grader to do, go apologize. And not to do it privately, hidden, but in the same format that you made these insults and accusations, to do it publicly. And I think there would be some level of forgiveness for that. But it hasn't happened. And it's sad because we're trying to tell our kids on how to take responsibility for behavior. We're in a time where publicly, nationally, people are busy screaming and insulting at each other. And this is a time in a community where we're going to ask the town to support the schools. The schools should be supporting the town. The schools should be supporting not just the students, but the citizens that are going to be coming and voting on $100+ million. That's a responsibility that takes mutual respect, transparency, the willing to listen to each other. When Dick comes in and talks about the 3rd grade tours, it's from a place of caring. It's not to be insulted. It's not to be denigrated.
30 seconds.
Emma?
30 seconds, sorry.
So I would just ask the school committee to emulate the behavior we hope as parents we teach our kids. Careful listening, the ability to say you're sorry, to respect others, to disagree in a way that isn't destructive, because we have some serious problems that we're facing nationally and here. And the only way we're going to get the right answers is by having open, transparent dialogue.
Kaylin Caskey, 5 Delaware Road. For the record, I know either party, but I think enough of you know when I see something, I say something. While I am not surprised at the complacent silence from every member on this school committee following the inappropriate, slanderous, and unethical actions from our vice chair, Diana Frischella, during the last school committee meeting, it does not take away from the disappointment that these actions are appropriate to the voting members of the community, and that we are all okay with this being the example to our students and the representation of our entire school district. Here is an excerpt from the National School Board document on civility. Quote, NSBA believes public officials at all levels of government should model civil discourse in the deliberations, allowing for the thoughtful, beneficial, and productive exchange of ideas and perspectives. NSBA urges school board members to model to students the skills in collaborative engagement, conflict resolution, and consensus building in their own conduct. Diana, your conduct as an elected school board member towards the member of this community at an open meeting did the complete opposite of modeling civil discourse to our students and our community. A quote from the Massachusetts Association of School Committees under How We Communicate is, "It is our responsibility to set the tone for the entire school system, and we will make every effort to promote a positive image for our school system." Diana, through your actions and conduct, you did the complete opposite of promoting a positive school image and completely embarrassed our school district in front of our 2 state representatives and state senator. One would think this alone would warrant some comment or acknowledgement by anyone on this committee of not condoning these actions to our community, but instead, complete silence on the matter was received. To remind you all of the core values of Medfield Public Schools: inclusivity, respect, responsibility, and continuous growth. These are values that some members on this board helped form. How can you expect the students and members of our school district to follow these values when you all are not leading by example? It might be wishful thinking, but I always continue to hope that our current and future school committee members and the voting members of our community can set and follow higher standards and expectations all around. Thanks.
Chris Potts, 7 Curve Street. I would like to take a moment to share that I firmly believe that these awful events that took place that harmed an incredibly dedicated community member were not only outrageous, but they actually, I believe that they represent a chain of events over the past 5 years that are a pattern of dangerous behavior. During the summer of 2021, a few of us produced a video about Dale Street School, and after we moved further away from the school, we later learned that Medfield TV was pressured to remove innocuous footage of bikes parked alongside the school building. Clearly, our administration felt threatened by our showing the sheer number of student bikes. Again, bike footage, no student faces. It was a political maneuver. During that same time, someone in town, clearly pressured to abide by some kind of quid pro quo, made an issue on social media of photos being taken of a mob of happy students from behind, no faces, showing how much they love to walk uptown. That resident's daughter was later hired by Medfield Public Schools. Yet another political maneuver. Last year, when the cancellation of the third grade tours became public and did not reflect positively on the district, it took a perfectly harmless 2-year-old photo, a photo okayed by a third grade teacher who was in the photo, on the front lawn of a town building in full view of the public and with no students identified, to become the target of an attack by a school committee member and a legal threat. Clearly, if this school committee member had a problem with her child's image being published in the Hometown Weekly and on the Patch, she would not publish photos of her own children on her Facebook profile with absolutely no privacy restrictions for the world to see. No doubt, this was yet another political maneuver to retaliate against people who dare speak up against decisions made within the district that reflect poorly on the administration. This has to stop. I will also direct you to a number of key points about the First Amendment and the rights of photographers in public places. As a reporter who celebrates our schools, the joy of education, I should not have to receive an email by this very chair stating to me, you seem to be advocating, and this is in regard to First Amendment, you seem to be advocating for strangers standing outside schools to take photos of students, noting it's a little unsettling. So if we in the community want to celebrate our students, we want to share the joy that students bring to our community, these kinds of actions are just terrible. They're awful, and they're unexcusable, and they're all political maneuvers, and they have to stop.
All right, that will end public comment. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Items included in the approval of the consent agenda are approve and retain March 5th, 2026 executive session meeting minutes, approval of March 5th, 2026 regular meeting minutes, and the approval of an overnight field trip, final approval, DECA International Competition, April 25th through 29th, 2026 in Atlanta, Georgia. Does anyone have any questions, comments on anything in the consent agenda?
No.
Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda as stated?
Moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Okay. Moving on to the, under new business, the bus fee presentation and discussion. Dr. Marsden?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So as you asked at the last meeting, you requested that we put together some information around instituting a bus fee as part of a way to raise additional revenue in the district. So I think Michael and I will go up to the podium and go through some of the documents and some of the information that we put together. I know this is something we've talked about a number of times. The district and the school committee. situation now, it's probably really pressing that we take a look at this and go through some of the information. So Michael was able to get a lot of this information. We looked at an estimate that was based on approximately 800 eligible bus riders. The maximum potential revenue at $180 or $1 a day per student is about $144,000 annually. And then if we choose to do the regional median of 300 per student, then the revenue would rise up to $240,000. So, you know, one of the things that we've looked at is that participation typically, realistically, would be around 70 to 90%. So we'd have to look at a spread around 110 to 140 if we went with the $1 per day cost. Michael, you want to go through some of the other?
Yeah, sure. So factors that may impact revenue, as Dr. Marston said, we have to look at the fee waiver or hardships. Family caps might be something that the school committee might want to look at, and reduced participation due to the pricing.
Yeah, one of the things that we wanted to consider before implementation, I think the first thing is family awareness and communication. You know, provide families with sufficient time to understand the fee structure, timelines, and assistance options. I think in anything that we do, whether it's sports fees or full-day kindergarten, we always have folks that need some assistance. Ensure clear, consistent communication to avoid confusion. And then look at the community engagement piece, so conduct a district-wide survey, similar to what we did with the school start time survey. Gather feedback on participation, affordability, and transportation needs, and then host informational sessions to address questions and concerns. Operational readiness is another issue. Establish clear internal procedures and controls for registration, billing, and enforcement, and then coordinate efforts across transportation, finance, and school administration. Staffing support, I mean, based on what other districts have done when they implemented this, they've either hired a full-time director of transportation. We think that we could hire a part-time, 15-hour per week administrative staff member to do this, and then that person would support registration, payment tracking, and then any family communication that happens during the day. On the technology piece, I think many districts that are using this have a bus pass or a bus payment system with not just a paper card, but actual technology that goes through that enables the online registration piece, payment processing, and any reports we want to generate to see how we're doing. The policy development to finalize policy on fees, waivers, refunds, non-payment, and then ensure alignment with our equity and access goals. In terms of financial planning, refine revenue projections using survey data and participation estimates. In my former district, when we did this, we tried to gather as much information as we could. We held a public hearing. We had folks come in, talk about it, but it's important because there will be some people that would choose not to pay this and will drive their kids that currently have their kids on the bus. So just trying to make sure you get all that information and then improve that budget accuracy and planning as we go through it. Traffic and safety impact, which I know is something that we're all concerned about, given the current traffic that happens in town, in the proximity of our schools, all being right around 109 and off major North Street and South Street, is definitely an issue that we have in town. So assess the potential increase for parent drop-off and parent pickup and how that will impact traffic within the community. Plan for the parking, congestion, and student safety considerations. I think even with the school start time change, we've seen some safety stuff that we've had to address, especially at the high school level with kids going to their cars. And then engage the Medfield Police Department to get some feedback, as we did with the school start time, on what they think would be the best thing to do in terms of the traffic. So I think those are really things that we need to consider prior to implementation. It's not impossible, but certainly areas that we want to explore. Michael?
So we would have a preferred timeline, which would be the school year of 26-27, because we would have to conduct a survey and community outreach, develop policies, and select a system that would work for us. And that means a tracking system that we would have to do, a financial tracking system, and then we also have a routing tracking system. We would have to hire a staff member or obviously to help us prepare for the operations, and then launch a communication and registration process for the new fee structure. We also wanted to just let you know that we did survey at different communities that currently have bus fees. As you know, majority of the communities do have bus fees. I believe currently it's us, Dover, and Sherburne that do not. have bus fees. I did speak to other business managers that are now going to be reducing their bus fees because of what's happening in the economy. They're looking at reducing the bus fees because parents feel that there's too many fees happening. So I can get you those communities that are also looking to
Maybe share
reduce.
some of those too, Michael.
Yeah.
If you want me to share.
You go ahead, go ahead.
I'll take yours because I have mine. So Michael, as he said, went through, and just to give you a flavor of what it's like in the regional area, Ashland, it's $290, Brookline, $400, Dedham, $265, Franklin, $360, Hopkinton, $200, Needham, $415, Norwood, $275, which is essentially $300 because they charge a $25 administrative fee. Mansfield, $300, Millis, $326, Medway, $265, Sharon, $567, Westwood, $290, Walpole, $325, Wellesley, $300, Holliston, $240, and as we said earlier, the median was $300. So Dover, DS, the regional, cannot charge a bus fee because they're a regional school district, but they're individual districts because there's 3 of them. Dover does not charge one, Sherburne does not charge one, and DS does not charge one. So other than those 3 districts, Medway was the last one with us that didn't charge a fee. They just went to charge a fee 2 years ago. So now they're in the second year of charging a fee. So we're not saying that it's impossible to do for the 26, 27, 25, 26, 26, 27 school year. We just want to share what our preferred timeline would be. If we need to get on this for next year, we'd certainly do that. I think this is, what this does is it will allow us to offset the costs of our bus transportation, which is sizable, and it will allow us to, to hopefully use money in other places if we do this. But that's kind of where we're at right now. I know we've talked about this an awful lot in the last 10 years or so, but in some of the challenges that we have, and I know that other folks know this, that we've talked about, where you're in a situation if your child, depending on where you live in town, if your child is at Wheelock, you may pay a bus fee, but if your child is at Memorial, you may not. It's just all based on the proximity, and we're required to bus over 2 miles, and we definitely bus a lot of kids within 2 miles. And we're not required to bus 7 through 12, but we've always bused 7 through 12. So that's kind of where we're at. We'd love to have conversation about it and see what you think, and we're ready to get busy on planning this and moving forward, but we need to hear I think we need a lot of work before you would obviously vote, but we'd just like to have some direction and some thoughts from what you're thinking.
My 2 questions. The 15-hour week, what's that? Do you know what that annual cost is for that job? Just to do quick math here.
So the going rate is anywhere between $30 and $40 an hour.
Okay, for that job. Okay. And then how'd you come up with the 70 to 90%? I think you said some of it's if it's 180 or 300, there's some, there's some stuff there depending on who price sensitivity. But is that what other districts around us are at, give or take, or where the 70 to 90? Because that's my biggest concern. People know I'm all in on fees to save a teacher, and to the people that use the school, pay a little more. But it's so hard for me to get around. I just don't know how many people will use it if we do
I
it.
would say that when we looked at the Dale Street project, was it 5 years ago, 6 years ago, whatever it was, it was about 82% ridership at that point at the elementary level.
Okay.
And so I think, looking at the middle school and high school, you typically have most of your middle school kids, if they're, not getting a ride, that they from their parents, they're on the bus.
Yeah.
And then as freshmen, same thing, sophomore, but as you get older, neighborhood kids will drive you once they get their license
Sure.
and that kind of thing. So we think, ridership, we thought 70% to, what is it, 90?
70 to 90,
Yeah, it was pretty good range. I mean, we'll nail that down once we actually go through the process, but that was
Sure.
the range we were working with.
Has ridership changed out of curiosity with the new start time?
If anything, it's more kids, but.
Yes. And then the other thing you have to take in consideration, you can only charge for students that are under 2 miles, because everyone else is obligated a ride. So you have to look at the demographics. We ran everyone's address currently, where the students are currently. And then we try to take the best educated guess on, what the numbers look like. So, next year could look a little bit differently. Just it all depends on where those students live and what school they go into.
Yeah, I think the big thing that we need to get in terms of information, other than having, a hearing or a meeting or whatever you want to call it, is to really get a sense from parents, if this happens, will you have your kid on the bus or will you start driving your child? I think that's the thing that we need to know, because that's going to impact the already, that 15 minutes of time in front of the schools, that's really challenging for traffic. It'll just exacerbate that.
worse.
So we need to really see what that looks like, and if we find that most parents say, sure, we're gonna pay and we're gonna put our kid on the bus like we always do, then that gives us a better sense of what the issue is going to be or potential issues could be.
And are these, a couple questions, are these towns all or nothing? Like, is there a possibility if you put them on in the, like, you don't put them on in the morning, but you pick them up, or is it you're on?
Yeah, you pay that, it's all or nothing.
And then do they have family caps? Do we know anything about that?
Some do.
Some do.
Yeah, some do.
I was curious of, what the analysis that we're doing with the total cost of the Medfield experience, how that's going to impact that number. And I was curious as if we have like an update on where that is, or an update on that committee, how this would impact that total Medfield
It's not going to help
experience.
us.
Well,
It's certainly not going to help it. I mean, I think that's, and for those people that don't know what we're talking about, we've done a study on the Medfield experience and how much it costs beyond just going to school. Whether you have to pay for kindergarten, you have to pay for sports, there's a lot of activities that are extra in school that people have to pay for. So we're trying to quantify that so that folks understand exactly what that full Medfield experience would be. So certainly that's going to raise it up whether we do the 180 or the 300, whatever you folks want, and if we do it at all. But I think that's not going the direction we wanted, for sure.
Did Medway, have you spoken to them? Did they have any feedback on how their implementation went, or any best practices or things that worked well or didn't work, or
So
surprises?
they have a director of technology, so they worked with the families. I think it was kind of tough with anything new. I think the first few months were difficult, but when I did it in my former district 14, 15, 16 years ago, it just became the norm. So if there's a little bit of churn in the beginning and folks aren't happy, and it becomes a fee that people pay, and then it becomes what we do, so.
And then kindergarten, as we've just talked about, reinstating tuition and upping tuition, would those families, would there, you know what I mean? Would
Yeah,
they
we
be
factored that
charged?
in
Would they
there,
not be
so,
charged?
We did factor that kindergarten would pay, but I think that's something to consider. So if you're a kindergarten parent, you're paying for tuition and you'd be potentially paying for a bus fee. I think that's something to consider.
Because there's only, I believe, a handful of districts that still charge for kindergarten. And we're
Right.
Yeah,
one of them.
there's very few left, so.
Yeah.
We're happy to explore it more and see what else we can do. I mean, it's as far as, and I guess what feedback we'd want is this something you want to consider for next school year, or is this something, because that determines what we need to do as far as urgency and.
Timeline, yep.
Is this something you want to consider for them, or something that we should, talk about at the April meeting after you think about it, whatever you folks want, but direction in that would be helpful, because that will tell us what we need to be doing.
What do you guys think?
I don't know where everyone's at, but I mean, we know where I'm at. I'd do it next year to get money to save teachers and programs for our kids.
I go in either direction because of the fees, the question of the fees, are we going to charge a fee for this? I heard rumors of a technology fee, which I don't agree with. Are we upping sports fees? And that total Medfield experience, what does that mean to us as a community, right? So, so I think this is just one of those areas that, I don't know, I think, probably, a survey how people feel about it, if it's gonna be a real hardship, or maybe it's not gonna matter, $1 a day, to ride the bus. So, it's not that bad. So,
I think that's the approach. I mean, if we're looking at $1 a day, then we would look at, is it monthly like we do our tuition for kindergarten and preschool? Is it all up front? We'd have to talk about what that looks like,
but the effort for the push, right? I'm hearing $30,000, of labor, to maintain it, for the school year, possible 110 to 140,000. We're talking 80,000 to 110 net gain, is, as a moving target. I don't know.
I mean, it's a tax, right? That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's another tax for people. But you could look at it, it's a tax from the people that are actually using the service too.
Right.
Yeah, for that reason, it doesn't, you're getting something out of it, you're
That's true.
using it, yeah. I am curious about it in the context of like the entire, at least like elementary school experience and like what that looks like as a total, but
Is there any chance that it would reduce the number of buses needed?
It all depends on how many students are going to be participating.
and each year.
And it changes
right?
every
And every
year.
year it's gonna change, that's the hard
a
part.
possibility, for sure.
Yeah.
That's definitely a possibility.
Yeah, I can tell you, in Dedham, we started with 7, and I believe now they're up to 10 because more students are taking it. But that's not the case here because we schedule
Is that because of population or because they charged a fee and the nicer
So
buses?
they reduced the fee, actually.
What's that?
They reduced the fee. When they reduced the fee, more participation.
Oh, that's what you're saying.
Oh, interesting.
Who's the other town that has a similar structure to us? Why am I blanking on?
Hopkinton.
Yeah, okay. And Holliston was in my head, I thought, okay. I guess I'm curious, like, what their experience has been like in terms of that. Like, is it, like, we need an extra bus this year? Has that, like, I'd be curious about that, like, what their
We haven't gotten that far. I mean,
specific experience has
We've talked to
been?
them, but we haven't gotten that far with them. I mean, I think,
Because it feels a little bit more comparable.
yeah, I think what we talked about last time is that's always been kind of a roadblock, our structure, and, if other places can figure it out, we surely can, so. It's not an issue.
Yeah, they've
Hopkins-
done that.
Hopkins,
with it.
I believe, charges 200. I believe they charge 200.
Hopkins is 2 and Holliston's
Yeah.
at 240,
Yep. And they have a similar structure there.
yeah.
So it sounds like it's worth considering to continue to talk about it at the April meeting, and we can look at the timeline in place and try to maybe get some concrete information around surveys or things like that, so we can get feedback from the community, because I think that's going to be the biggest question mark here.
How about if we put a timeline together for the next meeting of implementing for next year?
Okay.
Just so you can see what that would look like. And then we'll get a sense of, whether it's doable or not from your perspective, and
So you're talking FY '27 or '28?
27.
'27, okay.
Sounds fair.
Great, thanks.
Oh, Michael, real quick, I'm sorry, one last question. If in the event that we do implement it and there is a reduction in bus, are we on the hook through the contract for that?
Yes, you are. You have to renegotiate the contract.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so moving on to the budget discussion. Actually asked Dr. Marsden to discuss a little of what the reduction in force process looks like, because it's the first time that I think a lot of us have gone through it from a community standpoint as well, to understand kind of the big picture of what a lot of these pieces look like for our staff and our teachers, before we start talking about the numbers.
Sure.
So I'll hand it over to you.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. So, I mean, I think if we're planning for a 1.8% increase, we would really, which we have to plan for because that could happen, we would have to look at doing a reduction in force in our teaching staff. So looking at how it typically works, we would have notification of non-employment, also called pink slips, to non-professional staff teachers. So those are teachers that are less than, teachers receive their professional teaching status on the first day of their 4th year. So 3 years or less, they don't have professional teacher status. We have 39 of those teachers right now, so they would all receive notice of non-employment, and then we'd have to hire them back as we could. One of the tricky things that we're going to have to deal with here, which really makes it difficult for the school department, is that, I know it hasn't been set yet, but I've heard that the vote for the override would be June 8th, in that range. So that makes it really difficult for us, because by law, we have to notify everyone by June 15th. And it puts people in a difficult spot if you're wondering if you have a job and it's now June 8th, June 9th, June 10th. So that's not great for us. That's not really operationally not awesome. So that particular piece, and we'd have to look at the positions based on enrollment, programs, services, et cetera. And then we have a legal framework with the teacher's contract, and then Chapter 71, Section 42, which changed a lot of reduction in force process. I think it was like 2016 or 2018, right around there, in which it was always just seniority based. So it's whether or not, last person in, first one out, that's kind of always the way it was. And now, when you look at, you have to consider what's best for children, novel idea, and then, you look at performance, and you look at evaluations and that kind of thing, and you can make determinations based on that. So the thing that stayed the same was that non-PTS teachers, those 1, 2, and 3 year teachers, are the first ones to go, unless you're looking at program reduction. So if you're looking at program reduction, you may have PTS teachers that are RIF'd before non-PS teachers, PTS teachers. And then the interesting thing that comes out and what makes it really complex is the bumping rights that occur with the law and in the contract. So let me give you an example. So if we're reducing a high school teacher, and that high school teacher is a PTS, professional teacher status teacher, and has a certification, which many of our teachers do, of 8 through 12. So our high school is 9 through 12, 8 is a middle school. So if they are a teacher and pick a subject at high school and they are they have reduced, they have the right to bump someone in 8th grade if they have seniority over them, and they bump an 8th grade teacher out. So then that 8th grade teacher potentially could have a licensure or certification at the elementary level. So if that's the case, then that middle school teacher bumps out an elementary teacher. So this is what we have to map this all out as we're going through the process, which makes it really, really complex. And it's not just we're going to reduce and that's it. It's those of you in education know that. People that aren't in education don't have a clue on how that works. So that's how the bumping process and the contracts and the law work. With the new law and the way that it changed in Section 42, you only use the seniority if you're using the criteria around performance criteria, licensure, that kind of thing. You only use seniority as a tiebreaker at that point. So before, for many years, seniority was the leading determination. Now it's used as a tiebreaker. So I think we got to go through that process and then finalize those decisions and kind of notify people and all that. So I met with the union for 2.5 hours yesterday. We have a monthly meeting and tried to go through a lot of this so that they understood. We have meetings. Michael and I are meeting with secondary teachers in one meeting and elementary teachers in another meeting next week and the week after to kind of go through some of this and just let them know what this process looks like, and also let them know that the 39 people, just because you got a non-employment letter from me doesn't mean you've lost your job. But here's the other issue that comes into that. If you're a teacher, you've got a non-employment letter and it's April and jobs are being posted in other districts, well, you're probably going to apply for those positions. So we could absolutely lose really good, talented people that we have in years 1, 2, and 3 in this process because we're going to have to, do the reduction in force beforehand. We got teachers from Franklin last year. We got teachers from Westwood last year that had issues around, reduction in force. So, we've benefited from it this current year, but we may end up losing, as we look forward in the next year. So that's kind of, what we're looking at. I mean, I think the impact, which we all know, is the increased class sizes across the board, and then looking at, lack of opportunity or reduced opportunities for middle school and high school kids. And then the last piece of that in the reduction in force is that teachers have recall rights for 2 years. So recall rights would be if that teacher we talked about at the elementary that got bumped from the middle school teacher, if that teacher goes and works somewhere else, that teacher can come back to Medfield within 2 years, and we have to give that person their job back if we have an opening, and then we restore them at that level of salary and their benefits. So it's just really complex in terms of what it looks like to get there, and then you have the 2-year callback as well, which could come into play for other people that were hired or not. So you have to honor that 2-year callback. So that's just an overview of what that looks like, and what we're getting ready to do. And we had a smaller situation like this a few years ago, and the number was much lower. But I think looking at looking at, even if the override passes, losing 7 FTEs, not all teachers, but 6 of teachers or whatever, you're still looking at, and God forbid if we're at the 1.8 and it's 1.4 million being cut, we're looking at many more. So we have to protect the town and the district with this by, blanketing these pink slips to everyone that's non-professional status, and go from there. So that's where we're at with that.
I asked Dr. Marsden to share this because I thought it was important for people to understand that we aren't just looking at eliminating positions. There could be a lot of change overall across the entire district because of this. I think if you're going to tell somebody they might not have a job, I think it's fair for them to think, I might need to go find a job somewhere else. And some of those people are going to be educators that we really value. And so that's just very unfortunate. And in that same space with the bumping, I think you look at stability in some of these places with people who have, good relationships, have put things together, kind of know how to work together, and some of those situations as well may be broken apart because of, just the way this works. So I just wanted to help people be aware around kind of the bigger implications of what this all looks like from, for our teachers and for our staff and for our students, and kind of just give a little bit more color around the big picture. I don't know if you guys have anything to add from like a education standpoint, the people who work in schools.
No. I think you did a nice job summarizing and understand how messy it is with the bumping and stuff. I think, naming the culture, like right now, I'm sure our teachers, the 39, they're looking for jobs. It's just not good now. Like when and if, however many we have to bump happens, that will not be best for our kids. And right now, it's not best for our kids because these people are thinking and talking about this at the lunch table every day.
And I would say that the vote after town meeting is really problematic to us. Having a vote June 8th is really a problem. But
Yeah.
Is that just a function of preparation?
Yeah.
What is the June 8th driven by?
Well,
If
you
you
need
pass an
35-day
Yeah.
notice.
Number notice after town meeting?
It doesn't
Well,
have
no, it
be
doesn't have to be
after
at town meeting, it's just 35-day notice. I think we're choosing to do at town meeting, but I know that surrounding districts, when they've done override votes, they've decided before that and then had the vote much sooner, but I don't think we're doing that. But
So if we were, if we wanted to advocate for that to be sooner, where would that happen?
only the select board can do that.
But that's something that we could advocate for.
Yeah, I think the concern is that the number won't be the same at town meeting at the end. But my conversations with DOR say that, because my question was, why do other towns have a vote a week after or 2 weeks after? And they're responsible, some do it a week before town meeting. So they get it done before town meeting on the vote side, and then they, so people figure it out. So I don't know.
Never seen it before the town meeting, but I thought it was
Places do before, for
interesting,
sure.
yeah. So if it doesn't pass at town meeting, then
Millis had one before and then one after. They did it 2 different times, 2 different ways.
Okay, I don't know if we want to move to the number shift or if we want to talk about the articles. Steve and Ed, do you guys want to talk now, or do you want to talk after we talk about the literacy article? Yeah, I guess we can move to that to kind of get a better understanding. So we asked, I think Steve and Ed were planning to be here, and we appreciate you being here. We recognize that everybody's in a very challenging spot, but the numbers shifted a little from when we've had some of our last conversations, and we wanted you to just kind of, I didn't want to be explaining it for you, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, come on up.
Thanks for having us here. Michelle, thank you, the rest of the committee, giving us a few minutes. Ed and I, we're here tonight to just provide clarity, I think, on how the warrant committee our compromise scenario developed, what constraints we were working with, and what the school committee is being asked to vote on. I think those were the things I had on my list. If there's more, just let us know. So our goal is not to advocate for a particular outcome, but to make sure that you guys at this committee and the public have a clear understanding of the process that we went through, the rationale, and the order of operations as we kind of move towards town meeting, right? So is that sufficient, kind of?
Yep.
Okay. So, last time we were here, I call it the blackout meeting, and we talked about some serious issues for the town financially, a fiscally structural deficit, and the next couple years are going to be really tough, and we talked about the need for considering an override, and so. There is some light at the end of the 2-year period, potentially in 2029. We have, if all goes well with the state hospital, we'll have, I think the assessors estimate about $1.3 million in 2029 of additional revenue. So that's sort of the relief that's there. But we need some kind of a approach, a bridge, if you will, to get us from here to there. And so after that meeting, we, I think it was you, Michelle, suggested that we have sort of a working group, not getting all 3 committees together at once, but a working group. And so we got a working group together of 8 people. There was Michelle, Jeff, Mike from the school. On the town side, we had Gus, Christine, and Brittany. And then Ed and myself were representatives of the warrant committee. So there were 8 of us altogether. And, I can't remember if I think we might have had 3 meetings, but I'm not quite sure the number. But I think the first meeting, it was a discussion about, how do we solve this problem of, we have a school vote coming up that's going to increase taxes. We don't want to have back-to-back overrides. Year after year, how do we get from here to 2029 with, sort of a reasonable, glide path so that people can plan and have some certainty to sort of how the budgets are going to look. And so I think we talked as a working group. There was concern about doing any kind of override, but we worked through that. And then we quickly focused on sort of solving this 2-year problem with a stabilization fund. So we have an article to create a stabilization fund and take some of the override money that we vote on and put it into a stabilization fund to take care of fiscal 2028, okay, as part of that bridge. And so, that sort of, doing that creates a little more pressure because it increases the amount of the override, right? Because we're trying to solve 2 years at once. So we had to balance 4 constraints, I think it was. Preserving essential services, keeping the 2027 tax impact. We ran a bunch of scenarios of what type of growth within the department budgets would create what kind of tax impact. And we wanted to keep, I think it was what we all agreed on at the working group was we wanted to keep it under $2 million for an override and under like $878 was the related tax impact. And so, so we went through a bunch of scenario planning. We had a couple meetings, and then at the warrant committee met. We reviewed. If I miss anything, chime in. We went through a bunch of the scenarios, and it was before I think our last working group session. We narrowed what we thought were, as a warrant committee, we narrowed the choices down to two viable scenarios. There was a growth scenario that had the schools growing at like a 3.9% and the town at 2.8, and another one where the schools grew at 3.5% and the town was, I think, 2.6. And those resulted in certain tax impacts. Our committee felt that that amount of tax was tolerable for residents. So we agreed to take that to the working group. And then in between, when the working group met and our warrant committee meeting, a member of the working group, gave us some insight about our longstanding policy of what I use the term proportionality. It's basically how much of the budget is dedicated to the schools and how much is dedicated to the town. The 75-25 split, we call it. And so, and that's consistently been kind of supported over a 10-year period that way, at least a 10-year period. I'm told it even goes back farther than that. That's knowing that, we informed the working group that that was a concern. We didn't have a fully developed alternative to deal with it when we met, so the working group never voted on it. But we took that input and we developed what we call the compromise scenario, which is the 3.64 growth for the schools and a 3.33 growth for the town. And it was between the two scenarios that the warrant committee has suggested, and it seemed to balance the service needs, the tax impact, the override size, and proportionality. Neither the town nor the schools were happy with that compromise. We call it the compromise scenario. It's not perfect for anyone. We understand that. But that's probably why it works. It gives us a stable 2-year plan, and it avoids another override next year, and it provides sort of a unified path for, all three committees to move forward as we head into town meeting. So that's kind of the big picture of kind of what happened. I know I've sent a number of emails back and forth to I think Michelle and Sophia. You both raised really good questions. Tried to answer them as best I could. So it was really balancing those four competing priorities. They work against each other, and coming up with. As a warrant committee, we felt like we needed to move something forward that. We knew there was disagreement, but we thought that the range of disagreement in the bigger picture was manageable for the town to understand and make an informed decision. So we reached a consensus to move forward with that recommendation. I think it shifts the impact of, I should tell you about the impact of, we tried to maximize the amount of override to be as close to the 2 million number as possible. So the dollar amount of the override is maximized in the compromise. The impact, therefore the tax impact, is fairly close to what that maximum is. It's now 878, I think. And it results, because of this proportionality, we can talk more about it if you want, but it results in like $116,000 shift between the budgets for the school and the town, right? So we end up moving $116,000 from the 3.9 scenario. $116,000 goes to the town. And so, I think what I would say is that it was sort of, I think, the thinking of the warrant committee that it's important to align around something fairly quickly, because we have a big education ahead of us for residents, to educate them on why an override is important and all the people that it will restore and save from being terminated. So, and so if we're united, we can work as a group, all three committees, educating the public on why it's necessary. And we could have joint communications and stuff like that. I know one of the things the working group thought was a good idea and approved a draft of a letter that I think, I don't know if it gets shared with the committee, but there's a draft of a letter, a joint communication
We saw it.
that, assuming we all get alignment, that it would go out to the public. They call it a commitment letter. If we're asking the public to pay more in taxes, other towns have been successful in trying to pass an override with this type of a commitment letter. It explains, basically the commitments of the school committee, the warrant committee, and the select board to abide by, certain growth rates in the budgets over the next 2 years, and not have another override. Certainly, that'd be the goal. I think the bottom line is that this compromise scenario, it's in the view of the warrant committee. I understand nobody is happy, but in the view of the warrant committee, it's balanced and it's community-minded. There was a number of people who felt like this proportionality, the 75-25 split, was important, and we didn't, I shall mention, we did not get to that exact split. It's actually slightly favors the schools. It's like, it's actually, so from that perspective, the town side is not happy. But it is what it is. It's a compromise. I think, we did hear back from a number of people on who say we're a community, right? We're not just a town with a school. We're a town with all sorts of other things. That it was pointed out by some people that we have increasingly number of people in town that don't have kids in the school. So they have needs in the town, and so we shouldn't ignore, that group of residents. And, and the warrant committee, we have to wear two hats, right? We have to think about the whole community. It's not just one department or the other. And so I think that's why the proportionality, 75-25 focus was important. So we made that adjustment to sort of satisfy and bring people together, and move forward as three committees that are supporting something that can educate and bring the town together to hopefully pass a successful override. So that was, did I leave anything out of that? Or?
No, unless you want to go into more detail.
Yeah, we can, we have detail if you want to.
Schedule if you want to
look at. If you want to look at anything, but that's kind of the big picture of, look, I understand this is hard for everybody, and we're not dismissing your concerns. We understand that. It's hard for everybody, so.
So Steve, yeah, so I have all kinds of issues with the 75-25 thing, just out of principle of budgeting, especially after getting 3 years of budget to actual, 4 years of budget to actual from the schools, from the town. including the schools. But I'm not going to break that down. We don't have enough time here. I will share that with you that I got from Christine and an analysis I did of that. Because there's some large percentages of surplus that happen year over year. So that's leading me to believe that the 75-25 targeting is allowing over budgeting out of principle. And so, and I do get that that actually ends up in free cash. So, and I do appreciate the use of free cash. I also support the idea of not balancing budgets as much as possible at free cash. So with those pieces, I agree with. But the idea of driving a budget that's not based on need or demand on this principle, I do find, you know, sometimes like, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm questioning it from that perspective.
Yeah.
So that's, I'm going to put it out that way.
Yeah.
Same time, you know, I want town services. I want to live here after my kids leave the schools as well, but I still want the schools to be great, and I'm with you. And I hope that this town finds a way to build a 55 and over community somehow on all this free land that we've got somewhere, so I don't have to live in Norfolk, okay? River's Edge is full.
What's wrong with Norfolk?
Hey, I'm sure it's nice. High taxes though, Jeff, high taxes.
Tell me about it.
So, my mother-in-law lives in the River's Edge with the rest of former Medfield people, and so, but I'd rather stay here. So I totally agree with you there. So, and I guess that's, but that's the minimal of my concerns. My concern is the same one that everyone here has, and that is primarily about the multiple overrides. And I don't feel that planning for 2 years is enough. As if we're going to ask for an override, I think the last override was 2019, is that?
Yes.
2019, right? So 7 years ago.
Well, the vote was 18, but yeah,
Oh, 18.
fiscal 2019, yeah.
So fiscal 19, right? So that's, to me, that feels like good planning on the part of all the involved parties at the time. And so I was rather new to the committee at the time, but obviously familiar with school budgets. And so I would be hopeful that we would be that, having that much foresight. I know it's hard, and I really do know it's hard, and just have that similar as, you know, as it was stated in open comment tonight about a new school, which is important, which, despite some opinions, the price didn't go down or stay the same since 5 years ago. So it's going to be a substantial amount of money that is going to be needed to do something for some sort of building that we're going to be asking for. And then I know we're planning to up to that vote, but what about after that vote? And because we may be in a situation where we're under construction with a new building, but we're cutting budgets because, you know, we have to worry about that.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. Hopefully, the state hospital is, you know, in play. I hope so, because I've heard a lot of plans about it 13 years ago when I moved to town and we were just buying it. And so, and maybe, just maybe, I have my eyes on some of those plans of one of those 3-bedroom units that's in there.
There you
I think
go.
there's one, I think, or two.
You and a bunch of other people, I guess.
That's right. But,
You know, I think we did, you know, to sort of, we did consider the sustainability question you're bringing up. It's a great question and a good point. But, you know, I think that we sort of weighed the probability of a successful hospital to Trinity development, right? And we think it's more likely than not, I guess, maybe 51, 49.
I saw fences up there, so that was a good, I think that's a good sign, yeah. So.
You know, it's kind of hard to ask people to, for an override for that year when you know, when you think it's more likely than not that you're going to get another $1.3 million of revenue. That's a tough argument to make, right? So we sort of settled on this bridge period. You know, if it doesn't happen, we might have a problem in 29. I don't know. It probably will, but
Crystal ball gets fuzzy.
yeah, it gets fuzzier the farther out you go. You know, but the probability that development will happen, I think I put in the more likely than not category. So that's why we didn't plan that far out, just to answer that question for you. You know, but I hear you. It's and you know, the fact that the school's coming, that, you know, that the tax impact over the next, now the good news is that that tax impact related to the school won't hit until probably 4 years from now, right? I mean, if assuming we vote in a couple of years, and then another couple of years of design and construction.
Right.
So it's really not going to, it's not going to hit people's tax, their pocketbooks for another 4 years, probably. So.
In seventh grade? Oh, I might just.
You'll be on Hospital Hill by then.
Yeah. But on your question about, the 75-25, I do think, because I think Sophia asked this question, is there an opportunity to have a conversation about that? I think there is, but not now. I think we're at a point where we're 4 weeks from, our town meeting, and to have that conversation, it's not just you and I or this group. It's the select board. It's the administration on the town side. It's residents. This has been a validated split at town meeting for over 10 years.
Was it voted?
Yeah, we vote the budgets every year.
No, but the 75-25 principle, was that a voted principle?
Well, it's voted by fact that we vote the budgets. We vote the school and the town budgets, and every year at town meeting, and they've been split, remarkably close to that amount. So it's the way the warrant committee governs itself. As long as I've been on it, we allocate, the revenues that way. So, but I do think, probably a committee maybe should be formed. My thoughts would be to look at that and look at other towns and see, let's look at where we stack up relative to other towns. We'll take the budgets from all our peer towns that we have and look and see what's our split compared to theirs. That would be a good metric to look at.
It's also my understanding that stosplit doesn't include things like health insurance and other things. Right? That's like a fixed and uncontrollable on the top, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
FTEs and other things.
Yeah, and we, because it's actually probably, last time we looked at it, it was like 76% of our employees, I think, were associated with the school.
Or retired.
Or retirees related to the school. So the health insurance would be split very close to 75 or 76-24. So if we were to do that allocation, but you're right, it's not down in the department numbers. It's taken off.
Then you'd have to go
It just
into the
doesn't
OPEB
matter.
area
So-
too.
So one number's smaller, the other's bigger, about the same amount, and you're back to
But
where you were.
that approach is common across a lot of towns. They don't allocate it down. So, but.
Is there a process, in the process, and I apologize for not being familiar with all the pieces of warrant, the warrant process and the budgeting process, because I only hear it secondhand, right?
Yeah.
And, what is that process where the budgets are reviewed? Because my understanding, again, I heard that went in and we went through the line item budgets of the schools and what you spent, I'm guessing what you spent last year maybe, or, I like to call it the budget to actual, what you actually spent, what you're requesting this year, why the increase, we do.
I mean, we start in September, right?
Yep.
And, it's either September or October, right after they get a number of what the free cash is. We look at that analysis and we see, okay, how'd we do, right? That's the test, right?
Yeah.
How did we do versus what we estimated would happen in the prior year? So we do look at that every single year. And we have the detail, we can show it to you, of all they do all the line items and, and the school returns they're part of that too. They return some free cash. So nobody gets their budget perfect, right? So there's always some differences. But the big items in the last few years have been interest income. We've generated a lot of free cash from interest income because of, rates have.
Good bank returns, yeah.
Yeah, rates have been up, but that's kind of trending the other way now. So, and then we had a period of time where the police department was understaffed. We were.
Sorry to interrupt you. The feed cut out. It's off.
Zoom.
Yes, exactly. Like I
Yeah.
have those too.
Why did I just get all these
Sorry,
texts?
Steve, we don't want people to miss
Yeah.
this
Say the
part,
feed's
so.
gonna-
Was there anybody on?
Yes, because I just was like,
Yeah,
I'm
we
getting
can still
texts that
see
just
the
said the feed
people.
cut out.
Oh.
There's like 25 people
Oh,
on
the
there.
camera? Oh, I
Yeah,
see.
you can't
Yeah.
see.
Oh,
That would help.
Oh,
Is there a plug there to? Is there a plug
I think
there?
Owen's grabbing stuff.
Owen's doing
See,
it.
Steve, we even save money on the computer batteries, too, just so you know. If the solar was running, we'd have
the
that
solar
charged
was
up.
yeah, yeah.
They can still hear us, though, right? No, probably not.
I would think not. If you're here.
I got messages saying it's just a blue M.
Yeah, I'll say, can you hear? I don't know.
Yeah, if they can hear, that would be good.
Yeah.
Ah.
Hold on. No, they can't hear either.
Oh, that's not good.
No,
Darn it.
because I think if those are,
Has it been out long?
Yeah, I have a charger.
Once my phone started buzzing and I was like, what is
yeah.
happening? That
those sound
was
effects. I mean, I have a
2 minutes ago.
Oh, all right.
7:15.
Okay.
I didn't miss much.
I'm guessing it's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
owl or something. Owen's got it.
Sorry, I get distracted by the painting on the door. I was trying to figure out what it
Some kids are.
All
It's
right.
like
We're back live,
back
Steve.
live,
We're back
okay,
live.
great.
All right.
So we were talking about the
Sorry
budget.
for the people at home.
Yeah, the budget process, I think, is where we left
You
off.
had mentioned the police.
So,
So I
yes.
did notice that in the police department, I noticed a number of departments that were consistent for 3 years, that were
Yes, they.
highly underspent, percentage-wise
Right.
compared to
And
schools.
that was the big one, was the police department. They went through a period of time with a lot of turnover.
Yep.
And a difficulty, filling, those positions. So we had to budget for them, but we just didn't, so they were in the budget, but they couldn't fill them as quickly as the budget anticipated. So that was a big driver of free cash for a number of years. But right now, they're fully staffed. I think, we do look at free cash. The other big driver was, there was a number of years where healthcare, I think 1 or 2 years where the healthcare had big turnbacks of free cash. That's not the case now.
I was shocked to hear that.
It was a hard thing to budget for a number of years during COVID.
What was our percentage this year?
COVID messed up the budgeting estimates for some of that.
What was our percentage this year on healthcare?
Healthcare is going up about 10.
A little over 10.
Yeah, initially, when we met with you, we were at 1.3% growth, and now it went up to 1.8 because the healthcare,
Yeah.
they did not cover GLP-1 drugs, so that
Right.
saved our premiums.
Yeah, it came back in
So
February.
we got a
yeah.
favorable turnback, or budget item there.
Otherwise, the health insurance would have gone up over 17%.
Yeah, it started out at a 7%, now it's like 10%, so. So I think, those are some of the, but we do, to answer your question, we start there, and then because we want to know how much free cash we have, so we can follow our policy of, we're going to know what, because we have people who want to use it for one-time things. Like, for example, you guys have an article this year for the literacy program, right?
Yeah.
So we have that all across the town. There are different capital needs that we have to fund and stuff like that. For you, it's a lot of technology, there's technology in that budget. And then we also, the big item is OPEB. We have to fund OPEB with free cash every year. And that's believe it or not, that's our biggest liability as a town, is that OPEB liability.
Yep, I'm familiar.
It's big, so we're trying to chip away at that every year. So then, that sort of informs some of the capital. The capital group goes off with the capital budgeting committee. They work through a lot of their processes because they can do that. They start that in the summer. They can identify capital needs. They know how much free cash we can give them, and so they put together an article that has all those needs in it. But then we start our estimating process of looking at revenues and shared fixed costs. We get a pretty good idea. Like when we met in December, we had a pretty good idea. There's always a couple stragglers that change it. Like healthcare is always one. State aid is another one that comes in the end of January. So it's really the end of January when we have a pretty good number to work with for the departments. But we try to give some initial guidance based on that, in December, some initial guidance on what we think the department growth will be. And that's when we got alarmed this year because it was 1.3, right, when we met in December. And that we knew that there was going to need to be an override to deal with that. So what did I leave out of our process? We actually meet with departments. So we have them all come before us, including you guys. Before you come in, we're very fortunate to have this young man here who had sort of Mike LaFrancesca's job, over in Mansfield, for a number of years. So he knows school finances. He does a thorough review, and then we have all.
Say audit, but you can say review.
And then we have all the departments come in, and everybody's presenting, budget. They have a standard sheet they give us with, actuals and last year's budgets, the new budgets, and they have to. It was different this year because we asked people to look at 2 years instead of just one, like we normally do. And we also, we had, we knew we were going to be looking at an override, so we asked people to show us what happens if it doesn't pass, like what you guys did of the different cuts that would have to be made and stuff like that. So I understand that, we don't, as a warrant committee, we vote on one number for the school department. That's it. And it's up to you and the school department to manage that to that number, right? On the town side, it's different. We have budgets that get approved at town meeting and by us at much more granular level for both salaries and operations. And so they don't have the flexibility of managing a $46 million, number. They have to manage a much smaller number. So I'm sorry if I answered your question. I mean,
No,
is there something he wants to add something?
So we do look at all the departments, all of the town departments, one by one, go through all of their line items, and then I spend a tremendous amount of time bothering Mike and Jeff going over the school budget. But I think what we need to make perfectly clear is we don't have an expense problem. The school budget is fine. It's been going up to about the same amount every single year. This year it's a little higher because they have some extraordinary expenses with a new bus contract and special ed education and the cost of utilities. So that's why it blossomed to 5% this year. So we don't have an expense problem. We have a revenue problem. The reason we have a 1.8 and 2.1 for 27 and 28 is not because the budgets are outrageous. They're fine. It's the revenue. We don't have enough revenue from the state. We have 10% increase in health insurance, which is what, about $800,000, $900,000, just that increase.
Yeah, that one line.
At one point, I did a calculation, and I think something like 60% of our incremental revenue through taxes was going to go to that one line item for the increment. So, as we go through this terrible process, we've got to remember, it's not an expense problem, it's a revenue problem. So we've got to make up for that revenue problem with the override.
So I guess on the revenue front, so you mentioned that, we're hopeful that Trinity will close and we'll get $1.3 million, right? But that's a one-time revenue. That's not recurring revenue every year.
No, that property goes on the tax revenue, the tax levy every year, just like your homes, so.
The closing costs are going to be higher.
Sorry, the 1.3 is property tax revenue.
Right.
Yearly property tax revenue that will go up every year. There's also other one-time pieces of cash that we will get.
Like the
I don't call it
But that's for
revenue because it's not in our property tax levy.
One-time
There is
million
one-time payments we'll get. One is for the sale of the land, right? And these one-time payments we would use for capital type items, right? So, and then there's also a former, actually a $1 million payment that's going to come for, that was designated for the school, right? And so for the new school, there'll be another $1 million. We've assumed that will go into the tax mitigation stabilization fund for the new school, because that's a one-time kind of thing.
That's
We had never- yeah,
interesting,
that's-
because that wasn't what we, because the.
We were here with Trinity when we negotiated
Yeah,
that.
and the reason was to offset costs for the additional
Yes.
students, like 65 students or something. It was
Yes.
like multi-years of offsetting costs. That was the,
Well, we'll have to talk about that, because I'm not sure that's a smart thing to do. I think if you go out and hire a bunch of people, what do you do the next year when you don't have the $1 million?
I don't think that wasn't the intent to hire a bunch of people. It was just to offset the cost of additional students. That was clearly what we,
It was undesignated except just $1 million.
it wasn't to use 1 million all at once. It was just to have
Correct.
if additional costs come with.
Yeah, well, we'll have to talk about that. I mean, I'm not sure we would support increasing your budget if it was a recurring, expense every year.
Well, it could be no.
Because you wouldn't have the revenue to support
I
that.
think what we were doing is, and our understanding in that time period was, it would be put in a revolving account, and then we would use it to offset the budget as needed. That was what we had talked about at the time. So it was never anything about offsetting the bill.
I never had those discussions, so I'm not sure where that came
Kind of
from,
like a
but,
stabilization.
yeah. But that'll be something we'll have to work through, I guess.
Then that becomes my next question, right? So we're in this place right now where we're cutting, right? And I feel like the amount of time I've spent up here, we are very good at doing well with what we have, but we also are asked every year to do less with, do more with less.
Do the same with
Do better
less.
with less.
Yes.
Better with the
And
option.
we're now going to make we're not even not going to get our asks, we're going to make cuts, right? So when we lose a teacher, getting a teacher back is incredibly challenging.
Yeah.
So I guess as we look at this bridge concept, are we bridging in the hopes that we will reinstate some of these teachers down the road? Or are we just you cut and then you just keep going and that, right? So that's the other part I think that I personally find a little upsetting is we're making this change late in the game to get rid of another staff member. When do I get my staff member back? And the answer is you probably don't. And I think that's the part that's really challenging.
That was the conversation, the warrant committee meeting, was this is the new level service.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way you're right. I mean, it's tough, I get it. I mean, it's tough, but the alternative is that we ask taxpayers to fund the level service, which is, in the opinion of the working group and the warrant committee, that was too high of an impact. It was over $1,200, so that's the only way to make it work is to raise taxes, because like Ed said, we have a revenue problem.
So I'm not in any rush to raise taxes, but our revenue is our tax base, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and
Property.
as much as I appreciate the idea, it's a revenue problem. I mean, you can lower expenses too, and get some retirements in there and
Yeah.
incentivize some people not to take the health plan. There's all kinds of avenues for that. I'm not how much those work, but I'm in a school district now, we're considering the same things, we have a $5.5 million healthcare, bill that comes in every year.
Yeah.
So, same position. So I do appreciate it, and I know there's been some strong rhetoric thrown around that has, flown back and forth, and I'm sure I've contributed to. But I think you appreciate our position as a school district, that we're supposed to support the best schools we possibly can. And
Absolutely.
that's what this body's elected to do.
I understand. That's your job, to advocate for schools, and I get it.
And we're not looking for the free
Unfortunately, we're
ride.
the only committee in town that has to think about the whole town. So that's the problem. We have two elected boards that advocate for their interest very well. And we're sort of in the middle, so.
Can you help me understand, so when I look at this and when I talk to, a lot of the people that I talk to have younger kids in school, and so they're like, we don't want support cuts to schools and things like that.
Yeah.
Obviously, the town is important. I hope that I babysit my grandkids here one day, right? I hope to stay here. And so I want everything else that the town offers as well. I think it would be helpful for me to hear when you said that neither group is happy. And I'm having a hard time, advocating for this to someone and explaining that, because what is the town unhappy about when their percentage went up? And when I look at the cuts difference, it doesn't feel balanced, school cuts versus town cuts. And I don't know how to explain that to someone.
Yeah, no, it's complicated. I get it, yeah.
But I think, when someone's looking at it and they're like, so where, I printed it out, I got it.
I was going to say, I see your cut, I see the school cuts at 606,000.
Do you have
the
this
town cuts
spreadsheet?
at 40,000.
We just did
Yeah,
it.
I guess, I have this one.
I think I sent it,
yeah,
yes,
oh,
yes, I
think
did
that's
send it to
oh,
her. I'm not sure everyone else
This is
has
in
it.
color,
Yeah.
sounds pretty.
So this, I think, Ed,
we
you want
print
to
in black
explain?
and white, just
You want to
to save
explain
money.
this?
I tried
It's
to.
his Ed's schedule, so I'll let him explain.
So I understand that they're not at exactly 75-25, but it is a higher percentage than the 3928 and the
So, and
3526.
before we get into the numbers, and the
Okay.
numbers will show it, what the town and the school, the select board were concerned about is, right now and over the past 10 years, the schools have gotten more than 75% of the budget. And you can see that in '26, it was almost 75.5, 75.48.
Yeah.
And if we use the 3.9 and the 3.5 scenarios, the other two that we told them to look at, in both cases, what would happen is in '27 and '28, the schools could continue to creep up and get a bigger percentage of the total pie. And so what their contention was is, that isn't right. We should be doing our best to bring that back to 75-25, and which is the way we split incremental revenue, and over time that will happen. But they said in this next 2 years, we've got to make an effort to start to bring that down. So in this schedule, you'll see that it's still going up a little bit. The schools are still getting a little bit more of the pie, but at a lesser rate.
So I guess that's where I'm confused on where because what you said was that neither side was happy.
Yeah.
And so the compromise had a benefit to the town. So I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around.
Yeah.
How many people are they cutting?
am I missing
Well,
something?
it's all relative, right?
Right.
It's compared to the scenario. So, if it's compared to the 3.9 scenario, they were going to get 20. They were going to get less, right? It was going to go from 24.52 to 24.32. Okay. In the compromise scenario, it goes up for the town to 24.46. Not as much as they would like. They would like that number to be 25.
25.
So it's just that it's not,
So-
okay.
Yeah.
But
They're not happy.
there's a gain
They're
there.
not happy because they're not at the 75%.
They're
They'd
not
like to
happy,
get there
yeah.
tomorrow.
So let me,
And you guys would like more revenue, right?
let me play a scenario. Let me play a scenario out here. And the House budget comes back, and there's an extra 150,000 that comes back. Does that get split 75-25 back?
Because that goes into the general revenue, yes.
So our budget will then increase,
By 75.
well, we won't increase,
Next-
our revenue will increase.
Well, and
Oh, wait,
therefore-
wait, are you you're talking about, so he's talking about
The House
the
budget is
final
gonna
budget
get
that'll
voted, the
get
final
passed.
budget.
So we don't have the
And,
luxury
I
of
don't know.
waiting.
The House comes and says, we're gonna give another $75 per student.
We don't have the luxury of waiting for that decision.
No, that's
We have
totally.
to.
So where
put
does
a
that,
budget
where
in
does
front of
that
town
go?
meeting. That goes to free cash, but the following year, it gets adjusted, okay, in the 75-25 formula. So we increase,
But we don't use free cash, so how does that get adjusted on the numbers?
the starting point
Your
gets.
Chapter
gets
70 will go up.
Your Chapter 70 money will go up, okay? So, and so, that's how that works. It's, I think we, I know there's sort of a complaint that, you don't, well, the use of free cash, I think we went through this with Michelle and Diana. Over the last, 5 years, when you look back of where free cash was used, there's a lot of it that was used to benefit the schools. We passed, we put another $1.5 million in a feasibility study from, for the new school, okay? And then we also put money we put money every year, almost $1,900,000 into the tax mitigation stabilization fund. All that came from free cash, okay? So that, it's not like the free cash is benefiting just the town.
No, I get that.
Yeah, okay.
Can I ask a question, just so I'm clear? So for the 25% that, for the town, right, I get the split, like, who is the person who's advocating for the 25? Is it each, like, other department, like Parks and Rec and?
Well, I would say.
When you say who is the person, like, giving you that?
Well,
Like-
the representative was Gus Murby on the
So it's the
the
select
working
board
group.
who,
Yeah,
like-
select board.
Got it. Thank you.
And the other two members from the town side advocate for it. So like the Jeff and Mike equivalent, which is Christine and
So Christine
and Brittany.
and Gus, and then
They-
the
they-
select board, they're the ones who are
Those three, so
advocating.
it's Brittany, Christine, and Gus.
Okay, I was just wondering, because like,
on the-
I always wanted to know, like, right, like.
Yeah.
Who, so it's like
No, they're
understanding where the.
advocating
pressure
for,
comes from.
for their,
Yeah.
budgets.
And that gets back to what we talked about a little bit earlier. Maybe there should be a study in the subsequent years to look at that 75-25 split versus other towns.
Well, that's why I'm going back to after auditing the last 4 years of budgets and seeing the underspent budgets, it's a high percentage for 4 years, right? So, and I get it goes back into free cash. So and if I know what I'm talking about, relative, it's all relative, but if I somewhat know what I'm talking about, and we talked about involvement and transparency, from the town, that's what you started the conversation of, how is the average person going to understand that? And I don't expect them to in that sense, except that it impacts on the services that they receive by paying their taxes. And trust me, I want the potholes filled, and, I appreciate my sidewalks being plowed at all hours of the night before I wake up so I can walk the dog. So I do appreciate all those things. But when I look at the budget, the actual expenditures, and I see an average going down, but 3 years ago was 1.6 million unspent, $1 million the year after that, 800 and change the year after that, 250 of each of those years was the police force. So I have to beg the question of, are we doing the 75-25 just for the sake of doing the 75-25? And is it a vehicle of systemically just adding to free cash? And so, which is fine, like not intentionally. And I'm only asking that question because on the surface of a quick analysis, and if I can do this quick analysis, trust me, anybody can these days. So what's the answer to that?
Well, I think what you'll see, I guarantee this year and over the next 2 years, is the amount of free cash that's going to get, because as budgets get squeezed,
Yep.
every nickels will being looked at. I guarantee you. We're talking about cuts. People are really scrutinizing every penny of the budgets.
we're not going to have a lot of free cash in the next couple of years. It's sort of forced discipline, you know, when you have.
Adding free cash.
Yeah, we're not going to add to free cash because that, you know, I hear you. There was a period where,
yeah.
you know, we had big amounts of free cash. We had COVID, and then we had, you know.
Yep, and that was the tail end of a COVID, that first year.
We had the interest income thing that was happening. Interest rates were going crazy, up and down, and that created, you know, free cash.
And I do want to give kudos, because I do appreciate
But we have to be conservative when we'll budget this stuff.
well, the capital budget that you put aside. I think that was a great idea. I love, there are things that have been put in place that I think are phenomenal for the town. So like the capital budget that you use to pay, that automatically goes into a fund to buy the fire engine or, you know, fix a roof, you know, things of that nature. 100%. Those are awesome. And I commend all of you on those moves. So I want you to just preface that. But when that 75-25 comes up and you mentioned Gus, so I'll pick on poor Gus, and he's not here, but what do you mean they're only going up 0.3, they're getting 0.3 more? So, you know, you better go cut a teacher, Jeff and Michelle, because we're not moving that 0.3. So, and I think, you know, from that lens, that's the off-the-shelf, 30-second armchair person's going to look at that, you know? And our parents are going to look at that.
I mean, I think the bigger picture here is that the school percentage is going up. It's not, which is why the town is not entirely pleased with that, right? They want it to go down. They want it to get back to the 75-25. This compromise has you going up.
I think the hard part, though, is the cuts are so significantly different. Like, I don't know how to explain that to someone.
Yeah, the percentage of cuts
They're so significantly different. They're
we're handling 94% of the cuts off of level services, right? So
it doesn't feel balanced. Like, I think when it's sort of, when the comments about like the compromise scenario, like the cuts feel balanced, like this doesn't feel balanced. And I haven't heard any explanation.
Let me try.
Yeah.
well, and that's based off of, mind you, that's based off of continuous years of having surplus. So, and I think that's where that's not as huge a cut, right? Because if they're not going up as much because it's been over budgeted for that many years.
Well, I think that's where, like, I just think, like, I would hope that the town, so Gus, Christina, whoever, like, it's, you know, right, you both know, like, you don't set a budget every year that's significantly higher than what you're gonna spend. Your, like, goal is to have your budget and your spend be pretty close.
Right.
So I think that's, like, what I guess our town departments have to get better at, because then I think it would, like, then people wouldn't be asking these questions, because it looks like the town has extra money every year and we don't have enough. I think that's like, the perception might be, right? If the police want to spend $1 million, then budget $1 million,
A big
not $1
piece of that
million
was, I mean, you know, we're trying to budget 18 months out, right? So
Yes, exactly.
they have a big turnover. They want to make sure they have the ability to replace those people, so they put it in their budget.
Sure.
You can understand that, right?
Yep.
So
They get the smaller budgets, right? And there's a bunch of them, like you said, a bunch of different departments.
Yeah, I mean,
priorities.
there's differences. They have problems hiring people. That causes budget differences. They put in their budget positions that need to be, they need to hire for. And the timing doesn't work out. They can't get people to fill these jobs. So that creates, differences. But, like I said, we're trying to plan 18 months out, so those things end up. But I guarantee you we will, on the capital side, we have two buckets of money. One is built into the tax levy.
Right.
It's the Municipal Building Stabilization Fund.
Which I love, by the way. So I'm gonna say
That happens every year. It supports all the schools in the town, buildings, right? There's about over $1.2 million of revenue that comes in every year that goes back out to all of our schools and town buildings. And the other is capital. And so there's about, the Capital Stabilization Fund relies on free cash right now. It is not self-funded. It doesn't come out of the tax levy. We have to, in order to do capital, non-building stuff, we have to have free cash to do that. That's what, it's been done that way since that fund was formed. So
And that's what we're talking about, taking.
And we have to fund OPEB every year. So those are the two big items that free cash goes through. And we've put $900,000 into this mitigation and stabilization fund every year for the last 3 years to mitigate the tax impact for the school. So that's where your free cash is going, primarily, So I hear you, but the other side of that is, it's not like the town's benefiting from a lot of this free cash.
Yeah, I don't think we're talking about free
Yeah.
cash mainly.
Yeah.
I think we're talking more about the budgeting
Yeah.
process.
But so getting back to, I think, Sophia's question about sort of, why do both sides feel like they're not happy? All right, I think you guys know why you're not happy, right? And we've tried to explain to you why you should be happy, okay? Because the percentage is going up. The percentage is going up, okay?
Parents telling you to eat vegetables.
And, the town is not happy because, I think it's explained on this, let's pass this around, because I think this will kind of show you what's happened. Here, pass that around. I think this explains why the town's not happy, to answer your question, Sophia. So, back.
I think we should just, like, the town, I feel like, makes it seem like people in the town. I think we should say the select board and, like, Christine. Because, like, whenever you mention town, I feel like that, like, lumps everyone into.
Well, they're
like,
representatives of.
yes, but, like, we always get said, like, school committee, so it's like school committee versus, like, select board, I guess, and, like,
Okay.
Christine.
Okay.
I'm just saying, I know, but I just feel like it's like sometimes I think people ask, like, who in the town wants this? And it's like, I don't know who wants this.
Well, they represent, they
Right.
get elected,
They're
and the
representatives.
people they represent are presumably telling them what they want. Just like
Exactly.
you guys have people
Right,
tell
but
you
I
what
think
you
a lot
want.
of people in town want both, and I know it's a math problem, so it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
we're stuck with a math problem that, like,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to.
But
come
look
up
at
with.
this, look at this, this slide, because I think this sort of explains why, this question about why the town's not happy. So you could see, we had an override in 2018. So in 2017, the town actually had almost $200,000 more in their budget relative to the total, right? So, on the 25-75 split, that was the only, other than 18 and 19 was very close. But then COVID happened. And during COVID, this is what they're very upset about, to be honest. They took I think it was like a 2% cut to their budget, and the schools increased their budget by 1%. And that created this imbalance in the percentage. That's
We're all
what,
getting federal money at that time, both town and school.
Right.
I'm just
I know,
explaining.
but I'm just saying the town got a lot of federal money there too, so.
Not in their operating budget, they used it for other things, okay? So none of the federal money went to the operating budget. So, so that created this imbalance, right? It got up to a high right on COVID of 75.91, almost 76% of the budget was allocated to the school, represented about $400,000. It kind of, you could see that it kind of stayed that level for a couple years, then it started to slightly come down. We started in 2004 and 2005, 2004, 5, and 6, we started allocating incremental revenue on a 75-25 basis to both the school and the town departments. And that sort of leveled it off. It didn't increase it. And then they look at what we're proposing in 27 and 28, and they see this difference getting bigger. So if you're them, why would you be happy with that?
If we're 75% of the budget, why are we 94% of the cuts? How do we explain that? If the school is the center part of Medfield, what am I missing there, Ed?
Let me try that. With
Okay.
the numbers. Yeah, because under the, what you said is true. It doesn't look proportionate anymore. You look, if you had this schedule here that showed all of the different cuts at the different levels.
Sure.
You can see at the 3.9, the schools are 490,000, and then at the 3.5, they were 668. And so, and the towns, it was 490 to 115, and the 635 was 668 to 144. So all of those numbers look kind of consistent proportionally. It was like a 4.5 to 1 ratio. But this is how small numbers can impact things. So now we get into that meeting, and they bring up this good point that this shouldn't be heading in that direction. So we start looking at the model and going into it and say, okay, what can we do to help bring down that number so the schools aren't continually getting a bigger piece of the pie?
Got you. So it's to get us close to the 75% is why we're cutting more right now?
It's to get us down.
Yeah, it doesn't get us there.
It doesn't get it there. It doesn't-
And it still grows, right? I
Yeah.
mean, the
No,
percentage.
and I see it's growing.
Yeah.
But that,
it's
so
still-
we are cutting more to get closer to the 75%.
Well, no, I would put it this way.
All right, go
You're
ahead.
cutting more so that you don't grow
So we get further away from the
further away from the
75%.
And you start going
75%.
down instead of
Because it's
up.
not getting closer, it's getting further away. You're still getting
Understood.
further
Like,
away.
yeah. Understood.
It's just not, I mean, you can understand, like, when you grow one piece of the pie by almost 4% and the other by almost 3%, that's going to, if that happens over multiple years,
Okay.
you end up with 80% of the budget being the schools and
Sure.
20% for the town, and then eventually you have a situation where you basically have a budget for schools, theoretically.
Oh, okay.
It took that incremental 116,000 to create a number to show to the town and the select board that we're making an effort to bring this closer to the 75. We're not going to go up at the same rate. They're still
Right.
going up, but not at the same rate. And with the understanding that as we continue the 75-25% split, this will just come down naturally.
So there,
And they said, okay, they didn't get everything they wanted, but they got something.
they're not happy, but I believe they're going to accept this.
Right.
And maybe we could talk about the process for voting, but I think, they are, my understanding is that they will accept this, but they're not happy.
Do we have a sense of what 3.6, I feel like, do we know what 3.6 looks like? Because we know what 3.9 and 3.5 look like. Do we have like a clear sense of what 3.6 are?
Wait for
I
what?
can wait, we can wait for
Respect.
Jeff. No, in terms of cuts.
It's an
Yeah,
additional
it's
teacher.
right there on that.
It's like,
It's
Oh,
one
just one
additional
more
teacher.
teacher, because like 100, yeah.
yeah, it's one additional,
You have the list in front of you. I think
Yeah.
those were the Dale Street.
So it's one.
yeah,
additional
it's one
teacher.
additional teacher. So,
But you mean,
I thought it
or
was down
Wheelock
to
or high
one teacher
school?
now, isn't it, Mike?
Because that doesn't,
It's,
so it'd be
so
four
it's not two in
teachers.
total, but it's just one.
Because this is cuts to
Oh, I
achieve
think it's
3.9.
I think it's 3.5.
schedule of
I think
cuts.
this is what it was.
Okay.
And then one of these two would be added
Gotcha.
to it. So it's,
Well,
I think it's 3.5 teachers after this.
well, there's one at the high school, right?
Yep.
And then there's one at Dale. What's the other one?
I think, it says, the cuts to achieve 3.9 was the one at the high school, and I think we jumped down one of the Dales. There's two
Yeah,
Dales
yeah,
above
yeah,
that line.
yeah, yeah.
One jumps in with this
One-
change.
Yeah, so there's
I think
there's
it's
two
one.
That's what I meant,
two
yeah.
FTEs.
Two in total.
Yeah, two in total.
So, quick question. So
Yeah.
even at the 3.9, what is the percentage increase for? Okay. So even every year, it's still going in the wrong direction?
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah, so you get it. Leo understands it, yeah.
This goes up less.
Yeah.
No, we understand, I
I get it.
understand
Oh,
that,
I
yeah,
understand
yeah.
it.
The optics don't look great of like,
No, it's not a
they
little
don't.
bit of
It's
money.
very, very hard to say it feels balanced in cuts because it doesn't look like it. Whether, and I appreciate all the numbers, but
Yeah. You're
right.
when I'm walking my dog and someone's talking to me, like, we're not pulling out spreadsheets. They're like,
No, and I don't think you're
why
gonna
is
get,
this
like, I
happening?
think, yes, I don't think there is gonna be
yeah,
like.
I mean,
an
there's some people,
explanation.
but most people are not doing that, right?
I think they're gonna say, we don't live in Lexington, so what's this Lexington
It's
model
not
thing?
proportional. We had to deviate from the proportional in order to work with the town and the board on what a valid
Yeah.
point that they had.
Yeah, yeah.
So we had to
So
deviate
this-
from that proportionality
This was the
to accomplish
compromise,
this.
right? In our word, those are
What
our
is
words.
what's this based on, a percentage increase each year?
The percentage of the total budget. So of the total dollars, let's say of 61 million or whatever the
Well, in
dollars is.
2027, that'd be 3.9 each year?
What schedule are you looking at?
You
The
look
one
at
you're
this
saying
one.
was, Steve, he's looking
The
at, he's
color.
asking like with this.
So, yeah, we know it's 3.9 this year. Would that be 3.9 next year and 3.9 the
Oh,
following year? increase?
yes.
All right.
Yeah, each of these scenarios grows each department by the percentage up top
But for both years.
for both years, for 27 and 28. So the compromise scenario grows 27 and 28 at the 364, 333. The three for 27 and 28, and so does the 3928 scenario grows 27, 28 by those amounts.
Because, a 0.34 in our budget has a large impact on things like stipends that are negotiated, the teacher contract,
Yeah.
lane changes,
Yeah.
maternity leaves, things of that nature.
It's
Look,
not easy.
I'm sympathetic. It's not easy.
Parental leave,
It's
sorry.
not easy. I think,
I think that,
the school budget's 3 times the size of the town budget, and so naturally the cuts are going to be bigger on that end. I get your point of,
Well, not percentage, yeah.
I get your point,
Playing
but,
catch-up, it would be different.
the reality is that, and I think, maybe next year we could have a conversation about if we do a committee or study this 75-25, but I think it would be an interesting dialogue to have with all the right
I
people.
mean, I get the guiding principles, right? We don't want it to be lopsided.
It's
And-
not our role as the warrant committee to
Right.
change that, okay? It's how we've governed as a committee,
Sure.
it's how we voted as a town, so it's an expectation, and it's not really our role to interfere with that, it's, so that's, that's kind of,
I think
you
this has
did a
been
good job
Yeah. it's
helpful.
been helpful.
at lists to only have, just with that amount of cuts, to only have 2 potential teachers. You did a great job with the non-personnel.
Well, that'll be this year.
yeah.
Pardon me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'll be this year, yeah.
I will say this, okay, I think in terms of moving forward, next steps, right? Well, before I talk about that, I'll say one last thing. I think that there was a lot of dialogue around this at the warrant committee. If you have time, I recommend you listen to the dialogue. But, we tried our best to stay as close to the 3.9 scenario because we knew Dr. Marsden said that protected the core, right? That scenario. And so we're 1 FTE away from that. And I think the feeling was that, I don't know how many employees there are, over 300 in the school department, so.
Or something, yeah.
So 400, okay, yeah. So I think the feeling is with a $46 million budget and 1 extra, I'm not trying to minimize this problem, but with a $46 million budget and 1 FTE, that it should be workable, okay? That was sort of the feeling. And so that's how we kind of reached our conclusion of this compromise scenario. And I know it's tough. I know nobody's happy. You don't make friends on the warrant committee. So, but in terms of next steps, okay, I think that the warrant committee felt strongly that we should try to get to a consensus between all 3 committees as soon as possible, and that votes should happen on their respective pieces of the budget, and then the warrant committee will do an official vote. We don't have a lot of time to do that because the warrant has to be printed by the 7th of April, I think. And so we have our warrant committee hearing on Monday. No, Tuesday. Tuesday next week. And then I have talked to Christine. I don't know the answer to this. One concern we had was that the select board wasn't meeting until the 7th. And so the sequencing of votes made it difficult because we were meeting on the 6th. That's our last meeting. So we were hoping that at the warrant committee meeting, the select board will be there. Maybe they could, have an official meeting and vote on this piece of the budget, their piece of the budget. I understand there's an election, right? And that people, we don't know who's going to be in the place at town meeting, right, on the committee, for certain, right? So I think the concern was taking a vote before then. I understand that. That makes sense. It's logical. So, but I would tell you that we can't wait too long for you guys to do that, particularly if we want to, well, one, we want to get the warrant done, and it gives us, if we're united on the options, it gives us, a more time to communicate with the community, okay, on the bigger issues of why we need this override.
I think we agree that having a united front is something that people want to be a part of. I think recognizing that there was a change to the numbers that we were looking at 2 nights ago is something that maybe we might want a little bit more time to digest and talk to people about, right?
Okay.
So it is the piece that we might have different committee members, but it's also like that information, you know what I mean? Like, I won't speak for all of us, but I did listen to the meeting, right? Like, and I think there was a lot of valid points raised during the warrant committee meeting, and I think that having some more time to digest the information and talk to other members of the community could be helpful, right?
Yeah. I think it's, I'm glad you think it's important for people to all committees to be together. That's our best chance, in our opinion, of achieving a successful vote. But if we can't be together, I guess, it just creates less options for us to be successful. I mean, we can't do communications together. We can't do joint statements, which sort of prevents us from, doing workshops, educational outreach, or whatever it is. So I would encourage us to work towards that goal, at least as best we can. But I get it. The time period here is compressed.
Yeah.
I get it. And so my only ask would be not to delay it too much.
Yeah. I mean, we do have the joint commitment statement on here as something to discuss, if people read through that and have things they wanted to add. Leo, I know you added a section 8. I didn't include, that's not in the meeting packet, that was.
It was a recommendation.
Yes.
It was a recommendation. I'll give you the brief version, because I don't know if it was on our agenda to discuss, so just around.
It's on the agenda.
So in the interest of continued transparency, right, that this process maybe become a more regular basis, right? Where it's, once we get through this, we'll all go off in the summer, we get a smidgen of a break, and then it starts anew, right? Late September, Mike Lee, Francesca, and Jeff send out to all the departments around, we need your budgets for next year. We know it's 10 months away, but you got to predict it right now. So to get the ball rolling again, and you're in the same boat as well, right? So, and I think perhaps having those conversations a little earlier, even with, what's to say there isn't a problem, budget-wise, one move-in our district into the district could wipe out this entire piece, right? Or 2 move-ins, right? And then we're coming back to the town for an emergency appropriation or something, right? Something along those lines. So, or we could lose a fire truck, we could lose, a bridge could go down, whatever the case may
Dale
be.
Street could collapse. I'm just
wall,
saying.
A wall on Parks and
Well,
Rec
Parks
could
and
fall
Rec,
down.
like, collapse. I don't know.
Parks and Rec could fall in. I mean, there's all kinds of things that, that have impacts,
Worst
right?
case
And
scenario.
we're already stressed because Parks and Rec situation, is also an issue, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I know they're feeling it, and I know it's something that has to be dealt with as well. And so I guess that's the consideration that, I agree we should go in the front, but we also have to be forward thinking that, this 0.3, I'm seeing a 364 every year, which for our projection we need to be able to make that work. So if it's not cuts this year, it could be cuts next year, it could be cuts the following year. So what's that look like, right,
Yeah.
over that time?
Yeah.
So I think that's my concern and
So
consideration.
what is the suggestion for the letter? Is it, I'm trying to understand the point that you would like to
Oh,
put in the
sorry, I got off track, I totally am sorry. So my suggestion was to have the finance subcommittee, from our committee, meet with you earlier.
Okay.
Right. Sure.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Through the process, so it's just earlier, right? So
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
to hear the voices, it's similar to when people usually start up, they're the ones that get to go sign the warrants up at the, to see all the money that they have to go through and all the purchase orders, right, that look like this,
Yeah.
right? And, and I don't know what that looks like on the town side. I understand there is not a purchase order system, so I don't know if Gus and them get to experience that same thing where they see all the money that goes out the door. So, but, and I think part of that for us would be having, just a more, a tighter process together as one united process, right?
yeah.
As opposed to, it's January, all right, gloves are off, let's go in and.
What some towns do is they have what they call an executive committee or an executive group. It's sort of one member from, like, the select board, one member from school committee, and then the warrant committee, and then the administrative people, and they meet regularly to sort of talk about some of these things. So that might be a way to put
Maybe.
something in there. I would support that. I think that's a.
Granted, last thing I want to do to anyone on this committee is add another meeting to everyone's plate.
Yeah, only because it's hard to get three committees this big together.
Oh, sure, no, I wasn't suggesting
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
it was more representative of to join Dr. Marsden and Michael through that pain that they get,
Yeah.
to go through earlier.
But they deal with those big picture issues that you're concerned with
That was the gist of my,
Yeah.
I know I wrote it a few days ago.
No, I just want to clarify, so the 608 or whatever, what is the 608 in reductions in the compromise, so Michael and I have looked at the scenarios and trying to, put some things together. So right now, those reductions are 1.5 administrative assistant, 0.5 custodian, 5 members of Unit A, which is our teaching, and then 108,000 in non-payroll. So that's kind of where we're at right now with that 600,000.
5 teachers, you said?
Yes, 5 Unit A people, yeah. So I think that, that's the most recent one we're working on, and then if it's 1.8, we know it's a lot more than that, so.
Including summer R&D and district initiative?
That's the non-payroll piece, the 118.
Okay.
And there's some other things in there as well, but, so that's where we're at with that.
How'd it get to 5?
You want me to go through that?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Sorry, thank you.
Yeah, so, we had, I don't want to say that,
Yeah, no,
I don't wanna
sorry,
say
I
the
don't-
positions, but.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I don't know how to,
Show them this,
Who are impacted.
right? Because this is what you're working off.
that's
right?
what I'm trying to understand.
Is this, you show them that?
That's the last one. I'm saying this is the new one we started working on once we got the compromise and what we're looking at.
Oh, this is because of,
So we're looking at,
Like, how low do we get on that list? Because it says 3.9.
yeah, so we did one FTE teacher at Dale instead of 2.
Yep.
And then one at, percentage of a teacher at Wheelock instead of the 1.4. Did the high school as well. And we got down to, right before the Blake Middle School. I mean, I have all the numbers right here and what the positions are with the initials of the staff, but I'm not
no,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
yet.
sure that, but,
No.
so that's what we're at 5 Unit A.
You don't have 3,
With an override, with a positive override, 5.
right.
Which I think goes to the point of it feels hard to talk about 5 staff. Plus, I don't want to minimize stipends in research and development. I appreciate it's not a teacher, but if we want our teachers and staff to be innovative and up with the latest.
Been very successful.
Right? That's important. And that doesn't happen during the school year. That happens in the summer, so that is important. It is not the same as a actual adding a few kids to a classroom, but I don't want to minimize that it's nothing.
I mean,
That's
I appreciate the,
30,000.
the thoughtful discussion tonight. I think it's a difficult moment for everybody.
Yeah.
And none of these decisions are easy.
Right.
The warrant committee's role is to sort of balance you know, a lot of competing needs here. The tax impact, proportionality, long-term sustainability for the entire community. And so we think the compromise scenario reflects that balancing act. And it's not perfect, but we think it's the most responsible path, and within the constraints that we're trying to work with. So, and we're committed to, you know, working collaboratively with you guys, the select board, and residents, you know, as we move towards town meeting, and hopefully we can do that all together. So that's, and sooner rather than later, so.
And just so I'm clear, because the union was asking me yesterday about the 94% of the cuts, and I didn't have a great answer for them, but my response is to prevent additional growth within the district. Is that correct? Within the budget, that's the 94% of the cuts, and the town taking 6? 'Cause I couldn't answer that to them yesterday.
It's to slow down the rate of growth of the school budget relative to the town budget.
Right.
Okay.
Is that right?
Right,
Way to
yeah,
put it?
That's how I understand
Yeah,
it.
that's how,
I got you.
I
Yeah.
understand it.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I would put it.
And as distasteful as that is, because it changed the number from that 39480 or whatever to 606, that was the compromise that really had to be made in order to generate support.
Well, an override and 5 people feels like a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah, I
For
didn't,
lack
it was.
of a better,
that
like,
five is
the
kinda
right, but
new.
I don't know what the
Five
right
is
phrase
kind of
is.
new. We were
No,
dealing with.
we did it today.
Yeah, well, that's why we didn't know.
Yeah, and that might change, you
Yeah,
know, who
yeah,
knows?
yeah.
You know, it could
Yeah.
change weekly, right, between
Right.
now and when you actually have to do it.
Right.
I mean, nobody knows. So
Get
that,
another
but
retirement.
those decisions are your decisions.
Right.
We don't get involved in that, you know. So unless, is there anything else you wanted to chat about or talk about, or?
No, I mean, we do have the K-5 literacy program town meeting warrant article on here, and we do have the warrant article in front of us. So
Okay,
if people
yeah.
had any thoughts or questions on that, I am comfortable voting that if you guys are.
Yeah, I just appreciate Steve kind of coming forward to us and saying that, you know, that might be an avenue to pay for this literacy program. He did a lot of research on that, looked at, you know, different ways to do it. It could have been capital, but that didn't fit, but it fit in the financial policy because it is a one-time purchase, so I appreciate that, you know, coming forward, because we'd
Seems
be
less than I remember, is that true?
221.
221.
That's what it's been.
Yeah, I mean, this was never in your level service budget, to make that clear. And, you know, obviously, we know it's a very tough year. It sounded like it was a really important initiative that you folks wanted to do for the community. And so I did the research, and, you know, there's precedent for a lot of towns for when they have these major curriculum changes to take the big, you know, there's like a pilot phase, and there's like a, you know, a year or two where you maybe get some grant money. I think we're through that. But the third year is there's this big hit. And so we did have, you know, we made the free cash available for that article, so.
We appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
really do.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions on the K-5 literacy program town meeting warrant article? So we would be looking to vote on this to be a sponsor of the article, correct?
Correct.
Yes, okay. I'd like to make a motion for the school committee to sponsor the K-5 literacy program town meeting warrant article as stated in our packet,
So
with the potential for the number to change.
So moved. Wait, what's the number to change?
The
Well, the
article
warrant
number.
article number could
Article
change.
number.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Not the money.
Not the money.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you guys so much for coming.
All right,
Thank you very
thank you.
much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Do we have any other items since posting, March 24th, 2026?
Steve, I'm sorry, is there a, because I haven't seen the latest, is there a total budget request for both town and schools that could be sent to the current final
Oh,
at
for
the
the- yeah, for the,
3.6433 that I could just get a copy of?
Yeah, here, I'll just give this.
Because I know
to
it's changing daily and,
you. Yeah, this is the So it's basically it's the last two slides here.
Okay, great. And I know there's a lot of emails flying around, I know.
So this is the 27 forecast. So it'd be this 46,222,000, that
Right.
number. And then for 28, it's the 28 forecast, the 47.
Can I keep this, or?
You can keep it.
Oh, great, thank you.
All right, moving on to old business, mobile phone, social media task force update.
We haven't met since last time, but there's a meeting Monday, the 30th, here in the high school library at 7 o'clock. The email went out to all the people who have currently signed the wait till 8th pledge. But, you know, the more the merrier always for that. At our next task force meeting, which I think I mentioned this last time because we had to push our meeting, we're just trying to find the best way to move forward and plan the next kind of event for everybody. But if you're interested in this stuff, you'll be right here in the high school library on Monday at 7 p.m.
We sent out a notice to families today as well.
Yeah, so that's the next time
Some
we-
schools, it went to Memorial, Wheelock, and Dale.
Yeah.
Went there, so the principals are either putting it out this week or they sent it out today, so.
Yeah. The only other current events with that is I heard today that out in LA, they finally got, well, I shouldn't say, how do you say this? Meta was found guilty and someone was awarded $6 million because they proved that social media caused anxiety and depression. And that's the largest dollar amount in the first of, they have like thousands of cases. So again, where I come and why I'm on this committee is I think social media is dangerous for our young people, and that's the first time that's happened. So that's like a big day for that. But.
Agreed.
Meeting on Monday.
For the school building committee, is there an update since we met last?
We have been submitting all the necessary documents to MSBA, and we are scheduled for April 6th for the OPM panel. We haven't got official verification, but we're told that's what we're on schedule for. And Michael and I will be meeting with the two co-chairs, Carolyn Casey and Bill Warner, with the OPM on Friday at 1 o'clock. Is that tomorrow?
Okay.
Tomorrow at 1 o'clock
Tomorrow,
to do kind of a orientation and kind of a kickoff meeting, and then the OPM will be at the next building committee meeting on April 8th.
Yeah, we moved
Wednesday
the
night.
meeting, I
It was
think,
April
right?
1st, and now it's April 8th.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so SBC will be meeting on Wednesday, April 8th, not April 1st.
Correct.
Okay. Anything from a community engagement communication update? Any of our PTOs?
K-8 had a meeting last week discussing Memorial's full. There's a lot of eager parents at Memorial, which is great, but there's space at all the other places for anyone that wants to help. There was a great conversation just about like looking at budgets and looking at seeing less donations coming in and sort of how to like plan for that and be creative about things that happen in the school and that the PTO supports. And there was a lot of conversation about the budget, and people had a lot of questions, and it was great. It really like showed the need for communication amongst the town in a way that is digestible and like easy, and because there was a lot of just like confusion. So I think that.
Yeah, I was with the Dale PTO, I don't know, last week, all the days merged together. But it was very positive. They had brought in some really great additional activities for the kids that were received really well. The Acton Discovery Museum came in and did some stuff with them, and it was really, really well received. And they had an author visit as well. And that they did a writing workshop with the author, and then just talking about end-of-year activities, because that's coming up very quickly. So, yeah, it was a good conversation.
I think also the only other thing for K-8, just in case people don't know, I don't know if I've ever mentioned it, is they are working on doing funds per year, so like class of. And so the plan is to have that hopefully started over the summer, so that as the PTO has funds, they can put into every single class, so that the hope is that, they start in kindergarten, and then once they're in, 8th grade, for example, that DC trip is like more palatable in terms of there's like a fund that's been building. So there's been a lot of work to set them up for every single class, but it looks like that's gonna happen in the summer.
Anything from informational items?
Yeah, just a few things. Just want to give a shout out to Blake Unified Basketball, who has started their schedule and had a couple of really good games. And I know they have on April 1st a jamboree over in Ashland, so that's going really well. Year two of that, so that's going really well. Our girls basketball team, three-peat first state champions, so congratulations to all of them. Perfect season, 25-0. Our boys hockey team made it to the finals and lost at the Garden, but it was just an incredible hockey game, and our kids just did really, really well. So proud of all that. And then since our last meeting, we've had Bannerama and Spring Fling, which were fantastic. So kids, again, always impress us outside the classroom and continue to do great stuff. So thanks to all of them.
Anything else from anyone else? All right, motion to adjourn. We'll meet on April 9th. Motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone.